The notion of buoyancy can be defined as the upward force exerted upon an object within a parcel of fluid between the object and that of surrounding fluid. In the context of swimming freestyle, buoyancy refers to the swimmer's ability to maintain a streamlined position above the water. Utilizing one's buoyancy is a key role in effective freestyle technique and is a core aspect that is trained to perfection at proficient levels. The purpose of this analysis is to identify core issues that poor buoyancy can lead to, so that I can introduce learning activities that develop body position throughout the stroke in order to correct poor buoyancy. These learning activities will consist of an initial activity to familiarize the learner with the concept, 2 regressing activities to develop the struggling concepts, and 2 progressive activities to implement the concepts into their technique. On an initial viewing of the video, we can identify a key indicator that the swimmer has poor buoyancy. The legs and hips are greatly dropped, sagging well below the water level and the rest of the body. Further inspection reveals that this causes a diagonal body position as opposed to an effective flat and horizontal posture, as the legs are lower than the torso. This creates critical problems such as increased form drag and compensatory movements, which ultimately decreases the velocity of the swimmer and increases energy expenditure. An exemplary swimmer maintains a horizontal position throughout the movement, with their hips and legs aligned sitting just below the surface water. The head position of the learner is another identifiable issue that is leading to poor buoyancy. The learner's head is lifted up, which then causes the neck and upper torso to rise. To counter the lift of the upper body, the legs drop, contributing to the diagonal body position and thus the lack of buoyancy. When compared to the exemplar video, you'll notice his head remains facing down, aside from when he is breathing for air. This helps to maintain his horizontal position and allows for effective streamlining. Opposingly, the poor body positioning of the learning attributes to the lack of buoyancy. The result of this is excessive movements such as immoderate kicking. When comparing the two swimmers, it can be noticed that the exemplary swimmer takes flutters of kicks in moderation as to conserve his energy, whilst the learner unrestrictedly overkicks, likely to compensate for the sinking hips and increased drag. This leads to fatigue setting in quicker, whilst also creating further form drag. A key motivator for high buoyancy is its ability to reduce drag. While performing, swimmers aim to be as streamlined as possible in order to eliminate as much possible resistant force from the water. By keeping the body higher in the water, less mass is moving through, thus reducing the drag. Therefore, when buoyancy is not managed effectively, an increase in form drag is applied, thus having an overall negative impact on the swimmer's performance. This can lead to compensatory movements in order to counter the resistance, which eventually lead to increased fatigue and inefficient breathing efficiency. Addressing poor buoyancy is essential in order to prevent these issues from having a negative impact on one's freestyle technique. The activity selected will aim to eliminate head lift and reduce the sinking effect of the hips and legs. By solving these key issues, it eliminates further implications that arise, such as excessive kicking and increased drag. Removing the learner's habit to lift their head and instead tuck the chin will first help to align the back of their head, neck, and spine. This horizontal alignment helps to ensure buoyant forces are distributed evenly across the body. This is achieved as the tucking of the chin drops the upper body lower in the water, allowing the buoyant properties of the air in the lungs to support the lower body more effectively, ultimately increasing overall buoyancy. Additionally, a neutral head position that shifts the body into horizontal alignment situates the body in a streamlined position, assisting to reduce form drag. Being positively buoyant ultimately improves freestyle performance through its effects it has on leg raising. Saikaraki and Yenny deduced that the net effect of buoyant torque does help to enhance performance, as leg raising torque maintains the streamlined position of the legs, limiting additional efforts such as excessive kicking and in turn energy output. Therefore, the lower the legs drop, the larger the resistant arm is, which leads to a greater generation of resistant torque, which then leads to increased drag. One of the key determinants of the buoyancy of a swimmer is the relationship between the swimmer's center of buoyancy and the center of mass. Megel and Kliava defines the center of buoyancy as the geometrical center of the displaced fluid. When swimming in a horizontal position, the center of mass is located caudally in relationship to the center of buoyancy, thus causing the lower limbs to sink. Therefore, the distance between center of buoyancy and center of mass is proportional to leg sinking torque. By following this logic, the larger the distance between center of buoyancy and center of mass, the larger the leg sinking torque is, and as previously stated, the more drag is created. Therefore, the exercises selected aim to minimize the distance between center of buoyancy and center of mass. The primary implications of poor buoyancy is the sinking of the legs and hips. Thus, the activities created intend to align the body in a flat horizontal position. The initial activity requires the learner to lie on their back in the water with a focus around floating. This provides an opportunity for the learner to familiarize themselves with different body positions and the different effects they have on their buoyancy. Because the learner is a male, they would generally find more success with their arms raised above the head due to the male anatomy, as McLean and Hinrichs identify that the center of buoyancy in males is significantly more coronial to the center of mass than in females. They attribute this to the proportion of fatty tissues located more caudally in females. Therefore, to reduce the distance between center of buoyancy and center of mass, swimmers must shift their mass cranially in order to achieve effective buoyancy. As demonstrated by the learner, initially with their hands above their head, their center of buoyancy and center of mass were closely aligned, allowing them to float. However, once they moved their arms caudally, the distance increased, which led to their legs sinking. This activity directly addresses the issues caused by poor buoyancy, as it provides a tacit understanding of how body positioning affects how the body floats. In order to assist the learner with their goal to improve their buoyancy, the second activity is regression, as the learner is now equipped with a flotation device. The focus of this regression is to position the learner in a horizontally flat position. This is achieved through the use of a pull buoy. The learner performs the freestyle movement with a pull buoy tucked between their legs without the concern of leg sinking, making the freestyle movement easier. The high buoyancy of the pull buoy shifts the center of buoyancy caudally, which in turn brings it into a better alignment with the center of mass. Positioning the learner in a horizontal position provides a tacit understanding of effective buoyancy, developing their awareness of the factors that contribute to maintaining this position, such as core engagement, plantar flexion, and the tucking of the chin in order to keep the head down. The next regression incorporates a kickboard into the stroke, with the learner performing the freestyle movement holding their kickboard at the bottom. The kickboard assists the learner as it provides a buoyant supporting aid, limiting the buoyant requirements of the learner. This continues to improve the horizontal positioning of the learner as it helps to align the arms along with the rest of the body. The purpose of this activity is to help the learner grasp the foundational concepts that are associated with effective buoyancy. In this context, a flat body positioning with their arms, torso, hips, and legs aligned are key to developing buoyancy control. Previous research from Alejandria supports the use of buoyancy aids for developing swimmers, as participants with buoyancy vests consistently scored improved results on the front crawl stroke swim-off performance test at higher rates in comparison to the control group. Previously established evidence of the success of buoyancy aids in educating novice swimmers supports my viewpoint and further validates the effectiveness of my activities. The first progression removes the support tools previously incorporated in order to apply the learned knowledge and build upon previously established skills. In this activity, learners are encouraged to perform the freestyle stroke, keeping in mind the key contributors to maintaining a horizontal positioning, these being strong core engagement, plantar flexion, and tucking the chin. This will challenge the learner as the activity removes the support tools, with intention to progress their swimming ability. Additionally, the learner is encouraged to take controlled breaths, as Kyoton's research shows that lung inflation enhances buoyancy and a reduced exhalation increases their natural flotation. Now, while the extent of the benefits this has on one's buoyancy varies depending on the swimmer's anatomy, its influence should be considered while breathing. To address the tendency of head lift, the final progression requires the learner to perform the freestyle stroke whilst holding a tennis ball tucked under their chin. This forces the learner to tuck their chin so as to not lose the ball, eliminating the bad habits to raise their head. Additionally, this activity helps to correct excessive head movements as the ball will come loose if the head is turned unnecessarily, which helps to provide immediate feedback. This activity continues to challenge the learner as they now must consider a new constraint. Not only does the swimmer not have external aids to rely on, they are forced to control the movement of their body more precisely. Buoyancy is a key part of effective freestyle performance as it helps to ensure a streamlined horizontal body position. By analyzing and comparing the learner to an exemplar execution of the movement, it is clear that the learner's struggle for buoyancy was due to the tendency to lift their head and resultantly drop their hips. These issues lead to further implications such as compensatory movements and increased fatigue, ultimately limiting the efficiency of the stroke. The analysis allowed me to construct tailored learning activities that allowed me to address these issues and progress the swimming ability of the learner.